For the first time, I am actually really nervous to be doing this because I had some kind of big money changes and milestones for 2020, and I am not yet sure how I feel about them. I want to be excited, but at the same time, I'm a little like, I don't know if I deserve this. It shouldn't be a shock because I've been tracking my money all year, but I hadn't done the math yet. Long and short of it, I made over $100,000 last year, and I also doubled my net worth. So I guess let's get into my budget. I'm Sarah, if you don't know me, also known as Budget Girl here on the internet. 7 years ago, I had a negative $33,000 net worth and I was making 24 grand a year. I am a completely normal person who has not done anything extraordinary other than manage my money and work my way slowly up to more streams of income and higher earnings. I have a journalism degree. That's where we are. Go ahead and subscribe if you would like to join this real weird operation here. Let's get into the budget. So first off, in December of 2021, I made $10,656.24, which is incredible. My day job income, this is post-tax, was $3,202.72, and everything else you're gonna see is pre-tax, so any business earnings. I've been paying on taxes throughout the year, but you'll see that later. For Budget Girl, I made $5,503.52, and for my duplex, which I rent out to my boyfriend and a renter, I made $1,250 and $700. $700 also includes the half of his bills for electricity and that kind of thing. Let's go down. So I had a fairly normal month. It looks like I was over on groceries and household. We've gotten better in the new year. Prices have gone up. I have some articles on budgetgirl.com on how to stop spending post-holidays and how to deal with price increases. So go check those out. I'll have those linked below, and I'm actually trying to implement those. I also spent over on personal, restaurant, and clothing. So let's see what I did. In December, we didn't travel anywhere. Some stuff came up, but we did go to Houston for the day and went to the aquarium, which was great. And I also bought a year's gym membership for this upcoming year. By buying a year at a time, I got 3 months free, which was excellent. So instead of $30 a month, it ended up being kind of like $20 a month by paying in full in person. And I love my new gym, actually. There are a lot of really fun classes, and I've been taking yoga at least once a week. And it's like a nighttime class. It starts at 8:45. It's right up the street from me, and it's wonderful and has done really good things for my back. So I did spend a decent amount on clothing. I did actually refund or sent one of these back. One was clearance, so I need to sell the other on Poshmark, but some of those went away, and I had some gifting. The previous month I bought some PJs, sent those back, and had some gifts for friends, and this is all travel stuff, so not too bad. All right, next. YouTube income was $573. Thank you so much. Amazon Associate 58, AdSense for my website 164, up a little bit, good. I made $207 on Etsy, $4,000 for a sponsored video, and $500 for a seminar that I did for a College of New York accounting club, which was so much fun. Next, I had $1,600 in expenses for Budget Girl. So this was an expensive month, internet, subscriptions, etc. I also gave everyone who does any work for Budget Girl a $100 bonus, and we also negotiated a higher rate for them going into 2022. Inflation is crazy. I want the people who do work for me and for Budget Girl, no matter how many hours a week it is, to feel valued, and I can do that by giving them extra money because they deserve it. So thank you to everyone who works on my team, whether you're my web person or my VA or my newsletter person, etc. So anyway, that was just a little bit that I could do for them, which was great. And everybody got at least a 15% raise. All right, next, I spent $100 on a tenant gift as well, as in I just gave her $100 as a thank you for being so wonderful. I also paid $528 I had some gutters installed when I was having water and flooding issues before I got the backyard regraded. It was a complete waste of money, but it was one of those things where I was like, well, it's levels of prevention. I ended up spending the thousands of dollars on getting the yard regraded, but I still had to pay for the gutters. So that got billed this month and I paid it. So I was negative $478 for the month for BG Properties, aka my duplex. Next, this is all the Airbnb stuff that I spent in the month. I did actually launch my Airbnb, the Wagon, in December, and I had 2 bookings totaling out to $492.86, which would exceed the core expenses of the lot rent and electricity had I not spent the first half of the month finishing it up, which costs money, of course. So lot rent was $465. I needed some more quilts. I paid for professional photography, and the photos look amazing. Maggie Boring is an amazing photographer. If you need a real estate photographer, let me know. I would highly recommend her. And some just other stuff. Propane fix, there was a little leak, and we had to test that out before we put people in there for safety, and we got that all fixed up. So let's go down here. And this currently doesn't come out of my budget until I tell it to. It's going to be kind of in a completely separate accounting, but I'm still going to report it because I'm sure you guys want to know. So anyway, negative 1368.29 for the camper. But I did start making money this month, so that's good. So total income minus my main expenses, minus my budget roll expenses, minus the property expenses, equaled my total take home to be $4,891.60 left over, mainly because of that current video, or else it'd just be like $800. And then I went ahead and subtracted the camper expenses for this month. Usually that comes in and out of my real estate savings account, but I had the money in the budget for this month, so I just took it out of that. I am counting that all together, and I'll do a video eventually on how much it costs to set up the camper and renovate it for Airbnb. Next, I had no mortgage expenses this month because I refinanced last month to get down just 0.25%. It was essentially a free refi called an FHA Streamlined, but what I did was I took the $1,600 that I would have paid to the mortgage this month and went ahead and paid it as additional because some of the costs get kind of yielded in. It's like a break-even thing at this point. So the skipped month got absorbed into the loan. I don't want any extra on the loan, so I'm paying the $1,600 first thing January, and you'll see in my net worth tracker. It looks like my mortgage went up a little bit, but it'll immediately go back down. Next, and then the rest of the money, $1,923.31, is going to my real estate investment fund, meaning zero-based budget. By the way, if you would like to get this budget, it's available on my Etsy shop. I have used it for 7+ years now, and thousands of people amazingly have also used it to master their money, get a really good picture, and I can't recommend it enough. I love that this is a Google sheet, so I can make any notes that I have, add stuff everywhere, and I have these the last 7 years, and it's been honestly my secret to becoming successful with money is making a budget, using a budget, and that's all I have to say. So let's jump to my net worth tracker. I know you guys want to see this. So at the very beginning of the year, my net worth was $95,472. Let's go up to December. I spent some extra time working on this because I wanted to triple check the numbers. It's been a crazy year. And actually, you know what, before we get into this, you saw I made $10,000 this month. And one of my goals for the year was to reach $100,000 in income, essentially 50 grand for my work at Texas A&M and about 50 grand in side hustle / budget girl. And that I did it. I'm kind of excited. So according to my numbers, and I'm going to explain this in a second, but I made $112,085 last year. And actually it's a little bit more because I'm only counting the money that came in. So that $3,000 odd that I make every month for Texas A&M, that's post-tax. That's the check that I get. The tax has already been taken out of. All the other numbers are pre-tax. So you see that I pay $500 a month for budget girl taxes, and but I get all of the income from that, and for my real estate investments, all of that money comes in, and then I have to pay taxes on it later. So the actual amount's a little higher because in here is not the pre-tax income from A&M, it's just post-tax. So at A&M, I make about 50 grand a year. And I also made this year $19,200 from my duplex, which is incredible. And the rest is budget roll properties, which was about 45 grand, which is really, really cool. I didn't know that Budget Girl would ever make that much. I don't think I ever intended it to. I don't actually consider Budget Girl that successful of a business. I'm surrounded by these absolute baddies who are bringing in 6 figures from their businesses that are similar to mine, and I don't make nearly that much, and that is fine. Because this is something I do part-time. I'm just really thankful for all arms of that and that I'm starting to make more money with it. So that added up to me being a 6-figure earner this year for the first time. And I'm still processing that. So I will loop back later, not in this video. So let's get into my net worth for December. 6 grand in my checking, 3 grand in my duplex checking, totaling 10 grand in checking, $10,000 emergency fund, $12,000 emergency fund for the duplex, which I have had to tap several times this year for the flood and all sorts of stuff like that. And we'll go over some of the main points of this year. And then $2,000 in my short-term savings, which has replaced most of my sinking funds. So my other main account is my real estate investment savings. This is what I've been doing the camper out of, and is also, I'm planning to eventually buy another property, whether it's land to put the ag wagon and other stuff on, or another multifamily property. Whatever I end up deciding on, this is where that money's going to come from. It's 15 in there, 558 in my car insurance sinking fund, and 3,059 in my YouTube tax savings. So that totals out to 18, just about 19 grand, totaling my savings and cash and savings to $53,075. That may seem really high, but I like to have a lot of cash reserves. I am working on that. I don't want to put my real estate investment into the market. I have seen people fail with that before. I had to pull some out of the market before I bought the duplex. I lost a little bit of money. It was fine, but I believe that if you're going to use it in the next couple of years, keep it in cash. Next, my investments. So I have $17,017 in my Texas A&M Teachers Retirement System account, $10,000 in a IRA from an old employer, $2,600 in another old IRA, and then $18,561 into the Roth IRA that I currently contribute to. And I was able to max it out this year. So cool. So I started out with 10 grand and it now has 18, which is that 6,000 that I contributed over the year, $500 a month, and how much it's grown. So that's actually a pretty good ROI. Next, I have a couple of kind of dabbly investment accounts. So 2 grand in MO and Finance and 300 each in Acorns and Robinhood, equaling out to $51,000 in investments, total liquid assets being $104,371. So that's cash, savings, and investments. Next, let's move on to my property assets. So non-liquid assets like your car, your home, etc. So here's where the big swing happened. And there are asterisks here because I figured I don't reevaluate my property every single month. Some people do, and they keep that very accurate. I've been keeping it at the $240,000 that it was appraised at when I bought it 2 years ago, all this time. It's no longer only worth $240,000. I did a lot of research on this and did a lot of comps. It's worth more than 300 grand now. I truly believe. I think I could sell it for more than that. What the price that I paid for it is now what single family 3-2s are going for, if not more. Zillow, which is a useless estimate, but between it and which says that the home's worth about 400,000, which I don't believe. I don't think I could sell it for that. But between comps of, I've been watching the real estate market all this year and I know what things are selling for, and between real estate friends who have recently gotten their properties reappraised, my friend Cameron recently got his 2 duplexes reappraised, and they're both 2-2s. And they're over by the sewage treatment plant. I'm sorry, Cameron. So his were reappraised at 300 each. So if his 2-2s compared to my 3-2s, I think 300 is a really conservative estimate and valuation. I'm not planning on selling the duplex, or else I would consider getting a new appraisal just to know. But I think 300 is conservative valuation. So that's what we're going with from now on. I will reassess in maybe 6 months to a year. I'm also devaluing my car by $1,000 because I've been saying it's worth about $6,000. Another year's passed. I think it's worth about $5,000 now. Maybe a little bit less, but we're gonna go with that. That's what Blue Book says, so let's do it. And then I'm valuing my camper, the ag wagon, at 20 grand. And that is based off of it being a business in a box. And I'm also pay very close attention to like the tiny houses market. I'm in all these groups and I see how much these are selling for. I put in about 15 grand. I think I could very easily sell it for 20 grand, especially because it's currently operating as a active and profitable Airbnb. So I'm not going to sell it, but I think this is a conservative but accurate valuation. So my new property assets are going to be 325, making my total of all my assets valued at 429,371. So I went back and forth on this a lot. I considered how much and I didn't want this to play into my net worth too much, but if I had valued the house at 260, I'd be at 158. But the more I looked into it, other houses, I'm like, it's just 300 is a more accurate valuation. I'm not going to sell it, so it doesn't matter. At this point, we're playing with imaginary numbers, which once you get a little higher, a lot of the numbers in net worth are imaginary. And that's a little frustrating to me, but I'm not going to pay $600 for an appraisal just so I can have an accurate valuation of a house I have no intention of selling. let's move on. So minus my mortgage, which is at $225,600. As you can see, it went up slightly from the previous month because I refinanced, and once I put in the $1,600, it should go back down. So when you refinance, it's not just the cost of the sticker cost. There are other costs that you have to pay. The mortgage company kind of bundled all of those together. Your payoff cost is always going to be higher than your current balance due. So this should go back down to normal. If you actually look at my property over the year, I started out at $223,700 and now I'm at $225,600. So my mortgage did nothing this year except made me 20 grand, which pretty much all went to the mortgage. But there you go, just a fun lesson. It'll go down more as we move forward, but I had to take the opportunity. I refinanced twice this year to get the rate down. So my net worth is now $203,772, which is up $108 for the year. Most of that is because of the revaluation of my mortgage or my house, but that's where I landed, and that's what I think it is. So that still processing. So let's just kind of talk about the year for a second while we're here. I did a $4,000 reno on the A unit early in this year in March, which also adds to the value of the house. I didn't include that. I just kind of went with what the duplex is approximately worth, but that does add value. Any renovations and upgrades that you do add value to your home. And then I paid $4,000 in taxes in April. Most of those were from Budget Girl, and then I had to increase how much I was paying per month for taxes. That's fine. I also took a $2,000 vacation to Arizona with some girlfriends, which was worth every penny. In June, my house flooded because of water issues, and I had to pay $2,000 for a new floor. And as you saw, some additional money for gutters and some other stopgaps that didn't really work, including the French drain, if you remember any of that. And then in August, I spent $3,000 on regrading the lawn. Then, of course, $500 at the end for those gutters because they didn't bill me until then. And then in September, I bought the camper, which is very exciting. And that was like $4,000. And then over the next couple of months, I spent $15K total, including that startup cost, into making that into a new stream of income, which started producing income in December. So yeah, that's really exciting. Added a new stream of income this year. Also hit a milestone I never thought I would. So that's where we are. You can also get this net worth tracker on Etsy, which is another stream of income. And I really enjoy it. It helps you kind of take a bird's eye view at your finances, and obviously helps you track things throughout the year. And I really, really like it. It's less than $10. And let's go ahead and go over to my 2022 budget now. So you can see you can copy these and start them over essentially. So I copied this and renamed it for January 22, cleared it, and we're working again, and then did the same thing with my net worth tracker. So these are useful forever. And this is my new year start tracker. And as you can see, $203,771 is my starting net worth. And let's have a good 2022. I would love to hear what you think about all of this. It's fine if you're like, your house isn't worth that much. Okay. Imaginary numbers, people. Imaginary numbers at this point. And I sincerely hope that I have I don't even have to have as good of a year financially this year. Half of that would totally be fine. I don't anticipate doubling my net worth again. That's a little bananas. The housing market is bananas. But yeah, that's a really good year. How did you do in 2022 with your budget and overall? I don't want to make this seem braggy. I am still a little bit in shock of it, but I sincerely hope that you've had a great financial year. And if you didn't, I hope you have a great financial year this year, because that's what it is. It's just kind of month by month, year by year. And I went from negative 33 to now 200K net worth in just 7 of those circles around the sun. So you can get there. You absolutely can. I'll see you guys later. Please subscribe if you like this rambling, crazy video by some miracle. And I will see you guys next time.